The instant her fingers brushed the metal of my mail slot, the very atmosphere felt like it turned to ice. Then came the pop, a fierce, indignant crack, succeeded by a flash of blue energy that seemed potent enough to drive a small wonder. And there she stood, Margaret Ellison, the self-appointed matriarch of the Meadowbrick Homeowners Association, recoiling as if she grasped a venomous serpent. Her shriek tore down the street, piercing enough to rouse the automated irrigation systems. I observed from my window's safety a mug of hot coffee warming my hands, and murmured to the empty room, "Lesson learned. Now, withhold your judgment until you've heard my side." That jolt wasn't a malicious practical joke or a reckless act. It was a culmination of a very long ordeal. It was months of being harassed, accused, and victimized by a woman who believed neighborhood bylaws granted her supreme power. I'm not beaming with pride over my invention, but I don't feel regret either, because, on occasion, justice requires a small jolt of electricity. 8 months prior to this event, existence on Meadowbrick Drive was a definition of tranquil. Following years of struggling as a freelance designer, I had finally accrued enough to purchase my first proper house. It was a charming colonial with blue shutters, a porch glider, and a grand maple that shimmered like amber every autumn. For the first time, my environment was serene, orderly. I telecommuted, tended to my garden, and exchanged waves with joggers I didn't know. It felt secure. I believed I had left chaos behind permanently. Then the post began to vanish. Initially, it was just the trivial items, flyers, promotional coupons, those political mailers everyone ignores. I wasn't concerned. But then my bank statement disappeared. Next, my insurance renewal documents. Then, one morning in April, I saw that my tax documents, in official envelopes marked IRS correspondence, were also missing. Losing a single piece of mail is misfortune. Losing 5 is a deliberate act. I contacted the post office. A representative named Cheryl assured me that every item had been scanned and confirmed as delivered. I scoffed. Well, unless my mailbox has mastered teleportation, someone is taking my mail. She gave a professional chuckle, stated she would make a note, and ended the call. That was all. Bureaucracy in action. Weeks drifted by, and the repercussions began to surface. Overdue notices, a penalty for a missed payment, a major client who thought I had abandoned him. A $50,000 contract was lost because a few critical envelopes never made it to me. That evening, I sat at the window, gazing at my vacant mailbox. The street looked idyllic. Manicured lawns, flags fluttering. Yet, something buzzed incorrectly, as if the quiet was masking a dark secret. The following morning, my neighbor Howard, a retired letter carrier, was pruning his roses. I brought up my missing mail. He scowled. "You know who's been nosing around the mailboxes recently?" "Margaret." I stared. "You're talking about the HOA lady." He affirmed grimly. "Says she's looking for code violations, whatever that implies." Everyone on Meadowbrick knew Margaret. Mid-50s, a severe bob haircut, and pearl earrings, even while landscaping. She piloted a white Lexus, washed twice weekly, and recited HOA regulations like holy text. She once fined a resident $75 because his Halloween decorations were still up on November 3rd. Authority was her nourishment. Regulations were her creed. Still, I required evidence. So, I did what any self-respecting millennial weaned on crime dramas would do. I acquired a microcamera, concealed it within a decorative wooden birdhaze, and aimed it directly at my mailbox. For 3 days, nothing. Then, on the 4th afternoon, she appeared. Margaret Ellison. Clipboard ready, pastel sweater, sunglasses mirroring her own sense of right. She scanned the street, flipped open my mailbox, and retrieved 2 envelopes as casually as if she were harvesting fruit from her personal tree. No gloves, no pause, just a simple felony before her midday meal. The next day, she repeated the act. And the next. By the weekend, I had amassed enough footage to curate a short film festival entitled Karen vs. Federal Statutes. I printed stills, cataloged each with a date and time, and decided, right, time for a chat. Her home was the largest on the street. Grand white columns, perfect symmetry, and hydrangeas so vibrant they looked edited. I knocked, She answered with that assertive, welcoming smile. "Oh, Daniel, what a pleasant visit." "Good afternoon, Margaret," I said, displaying the stack of photos. "We should discuss my mail." Her smile wavered, but just for an instant. "Mail!" She laughed. "Oh, dear. I must have been checking for stray deliveries. Our boxes are so alike." "They're different colors," I pointed out, "and yours is on a different street." Before she could form a reply, her husband, Bill, materialized. Retired attorney, polo shirt, a permanent sunburn, and entitlement etched into his features. "Are you accusing my wife of a crime?" he snapped. "That's slander." "I have it on video," I stated levelly. He squinted. "Then you'd best be cautious about who sees it. The HOA has no patience for agitators." And with that, he shut the door in my face. 2 days later, an official HOA violation notice was on my door. Unauthorized surveillance equipment visible from public thoroughfare. I actually laughed out loud. She was weaponizing the HOA to penalize me for discovering her crime. That night, adding a splash of whiskey to my coffee, I looked out at my darkened yard and mused. "Very well, Margaret. Let's find out how you manage accountability when it has a voltage rating." You see, when you've been pushed to your limit, you cease asking for permission. You start engineering solutions. I rang up an old college friend, Evan, an electrical engineer with an adventurous spirit a mile wide. "Ever put a current through a mailbox?" I inquired. He chuckled. "Not professionally, but I'm intrigued." We convened that weekend in his workshop, surrounded by the sacred trinity of caffeine, soda smoke, and questionable judgment. We drew a circuit on a napkin, 12V battery, motion trigger, an audio module, and a safety relay. The purpose was never to inflict harm, merely to ensure a specific individual would reconsider trespassing. Consider it a highly assertive security system for federal property. Evan performed the initial test. He poked his finger into a prototype slot. The resulting zap made him curse and drop a tool. "That's it," he said, shaking his hand. "Stings just enough to make you rethink your entire life." We both grinned like fools. We adjusted the charge. Non-lethal, lawful, gratifying. We integrated a loud warning tone, a manual override, and a timer to deactivate it during the postman's delivery window. Then I printed a clear warning. Property protected. Do not tamper. Electric deterrent active. Clear, direct, and legally sound. Sunday evening, as the neighborhood grilled and feigned civility, Evan and I modified my mailbox. We secreted the components under the post, weatherproofed the enclosure, and repositioned my bird haze camera for the optimal view. When we were done, I stood back, wiped the sweat from my brow, and felt an unfamiliar sensation, a quiet satisfaction. The kind a man feels when he's decided to stop being a victim. Monday morning was hot and still. I made coffee, pulled up the live feed, and watched my little electrified trap shine in the sun. For effect, I placed a few decoy envelopes inside. One marked bank statement, another confidential. It looked tempting. Hours ticked by. The mail carrier came, did his route, and left. I disabled the system for him and re-enabled it afterward. All was quiet until 4:13 p.m. Her Lexus glided to a stop, tires barely whispering on the asphalt. She emerged, clipboard in hand, feigning an inspection of a neighbor's shrubbery. Then she meandered toward my mailbox, checking both ways like a raccoon in fine jewelry. My camera feed closed in. My heart rate matched the tiny red lead on the circuit. She lifted the lid. Beep. Her head snapped up. Puzzlement. She reached inside again. Zap! Margaret flew backward as if pulled by unseen wires. Clipboard airborne, hair static-filled, mouth frozen in a scream. She tumbled onto the grass, clutching her hand in sheer disbelief. I almost choked on my coffee. It was a masterpiece. Kinetic, poetic, and utterly preventable. In moments, the entire street had a spectacle. Blind twitched, phones emerged. Someone called out, "Are you all right, Margaret?" She flushed crimson, salvaged what was left of her dignity, and marched directly to my house. Bang, bang, bang. I opened it casually. She was vibrating, incandescent with rage. "You lunatic," she shrieked. "You booby-trapped it. You assaulted me." I gestured to the sign. "It's posted right there. Do not tamper." "You think that's legal?" she retorted. "You could have electrocuted me." "It's 12 volts," I said. "My landscape lighting has more kick." Her husband arrived, huffing with vicarious outrage. "We're phoning the police. You're going to be arrested." "Excellent," I replied. "They can review the video footage when they get here." 10 minutes later, 2 squad cars arrived. Officer Daniels and Deputy Cole, both bearing the weary look of men who've mediated one too many suburban disputes. Margaret began her performance. Feigned tears, accusations, wild gestures. He set a trap in his mailbox. "I'm the one who was attacked." Officer Daniels jotted a note, then asked, "For what reason were you accessing his mailbox?" She froze. I was conducting a community standards inspection." He glanced at me. "You have that on video." I nodded, offering a flash drive, 2 months' worth. They reviewed a segment right there in their vehicle. Margaret's self-assured approach, her hand dipping inside to steal letters, that small, smug expression. The instant she was shocked, Officer Daniels visibly suppressed a laugh. He said, "Tampering with U.S. mail is a federal crime. He is entirely within his rights to secure his property. This seems less like an assault and more like a self-taught lesson." Margaret's jaw unhinged, her husband deflated. The officer returned my drive and said softly, "Nicely documented, Mr. Hartman. Keep that copy. You're fine." He then addressed her, "Mrs. Allison, if you so much as touch that mailbox again, we will be continuing this discussion downtown with federal inspectors." That should have been the resolution. But power is a difficult addiction to break. The next morning, the footage had circulated. Someone had posted a clip to the neighborhood social media group captioned, "HOA President Gets a Shocking Reality Check." It went viral locally. By midday, my mailbox was a minor tourist attraction. Cars slowed down for photos. Children whispered, "That's a zap box." Even Howard, my retired mailman neighbor, gave me a grinning salute. Margaret, meanwhile, stayed indoors, undoubtedly scheming. 2 days later, another HOA notice. Failure to maintain mailbox safety standards. Predictable retaliation. I laughed until I nearly dropped my drink. But karma was still on the clock. That evening, my phone vibrated. Unknown number. "Mr. Hartman," a professional voice asked. "This is Agent Rivera with the U.S. Postal Inspection Service. We've received multiple reports of mail theft in your vicinity. Your footage was flagged by local PD. We'd like to see it." It turned out I was not the only one. Over a dozen residents had lodged complaints. Missing checks, important parcels, private documents. The one constant. All were under Margaret's inspection territory. I gave the agents the complete file. Videos, dates, stills. They thanked me and assured me of their discretion. I almost pitied her. Almost. Thursday morning, 2 unmarked black cars turned onto Meadowbrick. Agent Rivera and his partner emerged, polite but resolute. They knocked on Margaret's door as the entire cul-de-sac watched from behind their curtains. She answered, clad in her full uniform. Silk scarf, pearls, a mask of calm. "Mrs. Allison," Rivera began, flashing his credentials. "We have a federal warrant. We have reason to believe you are in possession of stolen mail." Her composure shattered. "This is preposterous. I have served this community for 10 years. "Then you'll appreciate the need for cooperation," Rivera replied smoothly. Her husband appeared behind her, his eyes vacant. "Just cooperate, Margaret," he mumbled. "Please." They went inside. 15 minutes later, the agent began carrying out boxes. Actual boxes of mail. Labeled. Sorted by address. Some opened, some not. It resembled a hoarder's monument to control. Neighbors audibly gasped. One box was marked Bennett, tax docs. Another, Peterson, checks. She wasn't just stealing. She was curating. Keeping files, tracking people, punishing dissenters. Mrs. Peterson, a widow from down the block, yelled from her porch, You took my husband's last birthday card. You witch. Margaret's voice broke. I was protecting the neighborhood. The agents ignored her. They gently handcuffed her and led her to the car. As she passed, she locked eyes with me. You think you're clever, Daniel? You will regret this. I just shrugged. Perhaps, but at least I'll get my bills on time. The car door clicked shut. Applause. Genuine, spontaneous applause erupted across the street. People I barely knew approached to shake my hand. Howard was laughing so hard he almost dropped his shears. Never thought I'd live to see it, he chortled. Electric karma. Over the following week, the investigation became the local drama. Margaret had apparently been stealing mail for almost 4 years. Financial records, medical bills, even greeting cards. She used the information to blackmail residents, sway HOA votes, and humiliate her opponents. She had constructed a petty dictatorship from stolen envelopes. Her husband filed for divorce that same day. He stopped by my driveway once, suitcase in tow. She couldn't bear not being in charge, he said quietly. I suppose she finally learned how that feels. A month later, I attended her hearing. The courtroom was filled with neighbors, journalists, and one very stressed defense lawyer. Margaret seemed diminished without her usual trappings. No pearls, no superiority, just a beige pantsuit and hollow eyes. The judge was direct. Mail theft is not community service. 2 years in federal custody, full restitution to all victims, and permanent removal from the HOA board. Afterward, a reporter pointed a microphone at me. Do you feel vindicated, Mr. Hartman? I smiled. I just wanted to get my mail. Back on Meadowbrick, life improved rapidly. The HOA held new elections. This time, people actually attended. We voted Howard in as president, figuring anyone who delivered mail for 3 decades knew more about fairness than any lawyer. His first decree, voiding every petty fine Margaret had ever issued. His second, hosting a neighborhood barbecue-themed end of an era. Someone baked a cake shaped like a mailbox with yellow lightning bolts. The inscription read, Justice Delivered. I had 2 pieces. Life settled back into its rhythm. Kids played outside. Neighbors chatted instead of hiding. The atmosphere felt clearer, as if a window had finally been opened in a stuffy house. One afternoon, Mrs. Peterson came to my door. She held an envelope, its edges yellowed. They released this from evidence, she said, her voice unsteady. It's the last card my husband sent before he passed. She opened it gingerly. The writing was frail but loving. To my forever girl, keep smiling. She brushed away a tear. You gave him back to me, she whispered. I was speechless. Sometimes justice restores more than it takes. Months later, Meadowbrick was a different place. The fear and gossip were gone. The HOA newsletter now announced bake sales, movie nights, and pet adoptions, actual community events. I even joined the new safety committee. I know, it's ironic. My mailbox now sports a high-security lock, a small engraved plaque, respect boundaries, and a secret sticker from Evan on the inside, made with shock and awe. Then, one morning, I found a postcard inside. No return address. Just a picture of a grim building behind a razor wire fence. The caption, Federal Correctional Institution, Florence. On the back, in familiar, looping cursive, you destroyed my life, but I still think you cheated, Emmy. I laughed out loud. I pinned it to my corkboard right above a printed sign that says, Accountability Conducts. That night, sitting on my porch with my coffee, I looked at my quiet street and saw how much had changed. Not just the neighborhood, but me. For months, I'd felt helpless, as though politeness was the only defense allowed in suburbia. But power isn't about dominance. It's about boundaries. It's knowing where you stop and someone else begins. And if they refuse to learn that lesson, well, sometimes a lesson just needs a little spark. So, I'll leave you with this. If you've ever had a Margaret, a bully with a title, a rule book, and an excess of free time, remember this. Silence enables them. Documentation undoes them. And creativity? That's just the final flourish on the justice cake. Hold your ground. Remain decent, and always wire your mailbox responsibly. Now, Let me know in the comments. Have you ever had a Margaret in your life? What did you do? And don't forget to subscribe, because in this world of neighborhood politics and poetic justice, calm is always just one jolt away.